to the wider audience.
Woohoo.
So welcome everyone. I'm here with Sophie Hansen from Local is Lovely, and we're here today to have a chat to learn all about building your brand on social media. And before I hand over to Sophie though, I'll get everyone to head to slido.com and enter in the hashtag build your brand. And you should be greeted by a question asking you what postcode you are in today. And Sophie, I'm in Dubbo today, which is 2830. Whereabouts are you?
2800, just out of Orange.
Just out of Orange. That's fantastic. Very good. So I'll just change windows. There I am, and get us to the word cloud, which is showing where everyone's calling in from, which is fantastic. So local, a lot of people locally, Sophie, everyone calling in from around Orange, it looks like.
Hello, Orangites.
We've got a couple of, looks like we've also got a Queenslander in the mix as well. So if you're just joining us, we've got 14 people which have come in. If you're just joining us, head to slido.com and enter in the hashtag build your brand. We've got 15 responses so far, and we've got at least double that on this Zoom call. So give everyone a bit of a chance. We've got about 3 or 4 questions that we'll go through at the start, and then we might duck back to Slido a bit later as well. So slido.com and enter the hashtag build your brand. And we'll just leave this one. We've got 18 responses in, but we'll jump across to the next one, which is, where are you dialing in from at the moment? Are you at home, at work, sitting on the tractor or the header? There'll be a few people sitting on the tractor. Hopefully they've got auto steer on if they're watching us. But are you on the run or are you other? Whereabouts are you calling in from? Let us know. That's good. A lot of people at home, some at work. Hopefully they're on their lunch break and not wasting their boss's time. But that's good to see. Fantastic. 24 responses. That's great, guys. If you're just joining us, slido.com, hashtag build your brand, to join in on the fun and interaction. The next question we want to know is, how did you hear about this event? Did you see us on Facebook? See us on Instagram? Email? Did a friend tell you about it? How did you find out? Seems like the majority there on Facebook. Sophie, no doubt we'll be talking a bit about Facebook today and building your brand. So do these results what you might have expected to see?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm a bit of I lean more towards Instagram personally, just because I like the platform a bit better. But I think it's undeniable Facebook's, the power of Facebook is pretty huge. So yeah, that's what I would probably imagine for sure.
Yeah, great. Very good. And we'll duck over to the one more question, which is a bit of a double up. Which social platforms do you use the most? Instagram, Facebook. So seems like a lot more people are probably like you, Sophie. They use Instagram a bit more. Facebook. I probably should have added, what's the new one? TikTok. I probably should add TikTok to this one day. I'm a bit old myself for TikTok, but I know it's out there. That's great. And what age group are you? Are you under 18, 18 to 25, 26 to 30, over 40? Let us know. Fantastic. A really good mix of ages there, it looks like. Hey. Great. Very good. What's your farming situation today? Are you joining us as a farmer, or have you come to us from Sophie's networks and potentially you are not on a farm at all? There's a few not on a farm, have my own farm. Oh, a real mixed bag as well. Which is fantastic. So you're probably thinking along the way, why are we asking all these questions? And the questions are important to us because we need to understand who's in our audience, both so we can have a chat to you today, mindful of that. And being a DPI government funded program, we're all about trying to understand our audience and do the best thing we can by our audience. So at the end of today's session, we'll have a bit of a chance to confidentially, the answers won't appear on the screen, but give us a bit of feedback on how you found today and let us know if you're chasing any other information. Keep this Slido tab open because that feedback is important to us because, as I said, we're government funded and we're trying to do the best things we can with tax dollars. So it's important. I think this might be one of the final questions from the start. But what type of farm are you on or dreaming of? So what industry are you in? Let us know. My family, sheep and beef farmers over at Mudgee. So judging on the postcodes, I'd say we should have a few beef and sheep farmers around Orange too, Sophie.
And a few deer farms as well, or one.
Deer farm, wow. Oh, great. Very good. We'll just give that one a little minute. We're also streaming live on Facebook at the moment. So if you are on Facebook, welcome. And there's a little bit of a lag, so we'll just leave an extra 5 or 10 seconds here to give you a chance to respond and let your answers come in. But, hope all is well. Fantastic. And that's the post-event survey, so I won't share that screen. I will hand over to you, Sophie. If you're ready, you should be able to share your screen and start the presentation.
All right. I'll just get my screen up. Okay. All right. Is that all? You can see me now? My screen's up, Tim?
Yeah, it looks fantastic to me. So if anyone's got any questions at any time, use the chat function on Zoom. If you're watching us on Facebook, back it in the comments. Or if you're on Slido, there's also a question and answer spot on there. So we may not get to them straight away, but we'll aim to cover off on any questions at some point. Thanks, Sophie.
Cool. Thank you, Tim. Thanks. And hi, everybody who is joining us for our little workshop today. We've only got 1 hour and then a bit of time for questions. So I'll try and get through as much as I can. But if there's anything that hasn't, that you've got more questions or you want to dig into a little bit more, just come and find me on Instagram at Local Lovely, or on Facebook, Local is Lovely, and we can keep chatting there, or on the Young Farmers in Business page. Just really quickly about me, I'm dialing in from our family farm, or my husband and I's farm. Tim and I, we have a deer and cattle farm here about 30 k's west of Orange towards Cargo. I grew up in Sydney, moved here 15 years ago, and still a lot to learn about farming, but along the way have started blogging and writing about food. I write cookbooks, and I also help farmers tell their story online, which is hopefully what I'll do today. Okay, so I think there are three main things to using social media to build your brand online, really, that we really have to kind of drill down on. The first is community. You've just got to really be crystal clear who you are actually talking to. And remember that social media, the clue is in the name. It's about being social. It's about having a conversation with people. The next thing, you've got to be consistent in your approach, and you've just got to take the time to post really good content that will resonate. So the next thing before we start, I've got 12 steps I'm going to run through with you. The next thing, just quickly, I wanted to point out, social media, digital platforms, they're all super powerful, but at the end of the day, they're just a microphone. So they're an amplifier of your message. So before you get up there and start using that microphone, which admittedly can reach billions of people, you've got to know what you're there to say, and who you're there to say it to. Because I think if you haven't got your story straight before you step up to that microphone, your joke or your song or your story could fall a little bit flat. I've got notes which kind of which dig in a little bit more deeply to all of these steps that Tim is going to send you guys who are registered out as well. So all of this stuff on these slides are in the notes, plus some links and more resources. So don't feel you have to scribble stuff down. First thing I wanted to say, which I alluded to earlier, you've really just got to take the time to create the good content. There is no quick fix. Social media is an incredibly powerful marketing tool. We all know that. So you've got to kind of invest the time to make it work for you. You need to create really good content, and then you need to put the time into engaging with it as well. The next thing, you've really got to be clear on what you're actually there for. And then once you've got your goal set, then you can kind of allocate the amount of time and resources that you need to reach that. So I talk a lot about like a conversion goal, and sort of a hub and spoke system. So for me, for example, my conversion goal right now might be to sell my cookbook. So that's my hub, and all my spokes and all my digital platforms should be pointing to that. So your conversion goal might change regularly. It might change according to your business plan, your overall marketing plan, but whatever that is, you need to be really clear on it and really stick to it. And once you've got that goal in mind, it actually really helps you figure out what to share and what not to share on social media. So if you're just there to have fun and to make friends, great. Then, you know, share photos of your birthday party or whatever it might be. But if you're there to sell a product or build your brand, you need to be a bit more strategic and think about what you're there to share and what you're there not to share as well. So I think that's the first thing. I'd really love you guys to go away and really write down your current conversion goal and think, is all my content in some way or another pointing towards that goal? As I alluded to before again, the clue is in the name, right? It's called social media for a reason. So you have to show up as a real person so people can connect with you. I always say to people, if your profile photos on your LinkedIn or your Twitter or your Facebook or Instagram or whatever platform that you are on, if that profile photo is your logo, I would really consider changing it to a photo of your face, because it's a lot easier to connect with people when you can see eyes and a smile and look at that person and go, oh, it's a real person. It's not just some big nameless company. So show up in your feed, share what makes you tick, what gets you out of bed in the morning. Some of you guys might have heard of Seth Godin. He's like quite a famous marketing guru. And I've got some links to other things he said in the notes. I'll forward you after this. But he said, people like us do things like this. And that's what that's his motto, which really underpins all of his marketing. We all want to feel like we're part of something, that we're connecting with like-minded people, and social media helps us do that. You know, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so showing up as a real person on your social medias or your digital platforms is a really powerful way to build that know, like, trust factor. I think, you know, a lot of people would argue, some people show up too much in their feeds, some people don't show up enough. And it's confronting to, you know, put your face on your screen, I know that, but it really does help. I often say to people, every nine posts on your feeds is a good idea to show your face. So you do whatever works for you, but definitely try and show up as much as you feel comfortable with. But having said that, it's not actually all about you. I don't know if you guys have heard of the expression WIFM, what's in it for me. So your customers are always going to be thinking, oh, great, that person's sharing this piece of content, but what's in it for me? So you've always got to be sharing content with your ideal customer in mind. Like I always say to people, write every post with that person front of mind. Is this post useful to them or inspiring in any way? Or is it just a rant that you want to have about the traffic into town that day or prices of what your product or whatever it might be? When you're online, you've really got to be thinking about the person that you're serving. And having said that, I'd love everyone to, after this, if you haven't done this already, come up with your like ideal avatar of the person that you're talking to online, the person that you're really trying to reach. Mine is called Sally. I talk about Sally a lot. So I have a really clear idea of who my Sally is. I know what keeps her up at night, what makes her tick, what problems she has, and how I could possibly solve them. So for me, it's quite easy because my Sally is she's a mum and she's looking for inspiring recipes and ideas for local produce and markets and things like that that she might like to tap into. So I can give that to Sally. So when I'm posting, I'm always thinking, how is this helpful to her? So have a really good idea of who your Steve or Sally might be. You can have a couple of ideal customers, but having that person in mind really does help, because for a few reasons, it keeps you consistent. It keeps your tone of voice consistent. When you're talking to that person, you can be a bit more relaxed because you feel like you know them really well. You can have a sort of a tone of voice that's informal or formal, I guess, depending on your business. But it really does help you. And you can stay in your lane because you know, right, well, this is what Sally needs from me. This is what I'm going to give her or him. It's not about what you want to say. It's about what your customers want to hear. So please, stick that on your pinboard somewhere and go with it, because I think the people who are really killing it on social media, building really strong digital brands, are leading from that position of empathy. They're not actually just there shouting out into the void whatever they want to say and communicate with the world. They're actually being really thoughtful about who they're there to serve, the people that they want to tap into and the people that they want to kind of bring into their community. So always be leading from a position of empathy. The next thing I would say is you've just got to get really good at taking good photos and videos with your smartphone. We might all have great DSLR cameras sitting on a shelf at home, but if you aren't using them, there's not much point. But these, I don't know if, I can't see myself on this screen, it's just my full screen, but I don't know if you can see me holding up my phone. The best camera is the camera that you have with you all the time. And we always have these in our pockets or, in the car or whatever it might be. So get good at taking good photos with these, because social media is a visual platform. Instagram more than the others, I think, but still, the best Facebook posts or the most successful Facebook posts are the ones that have good images. Even Twitter is getting a lot more visual these days. TikTok is a whole other thing, but whatever platforms that you're spending most of your time on, I think it's really important that you learn to take good photos. Videos, as we know, video is becoming hugely popular. So practice with that. There's a few basics that I would love to just quickly convey with you guys about how to take better photos. The first one is to clean your lens. I think we often forget that these are cameras and they sit in pockets and they get filthy. So just, get your sleeve or your shirt and give your lens a good clean. It makes a huge difference. Slow down and think, what am I actually taking a photo of? Compose your shot. Just take a little bit more time to hold it, to think about composition. I would suggest you guys turn the grid on in your phone, and in the follow-up notes, I've given some instructions on how to do that. And really, just don't just go bang, 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 snap the photo. Think, what am I taking a photo? Maybe step back, give it a little bit more space. a lot of us on farms here, we're really lucky that we're living in this incredibly rich content. People want to see those early morning videos from, you know, getting up and feeding the stock or checking a fence or whatever it might be. To you, it might just feel boring and mundane, but to our customers in the city or wherever they may be, that's really interesting stuff. So use these cameras, pull your phone out, and if you're checking something in the morning or the evening or whenever, just do a quick video, like just do a quick, hey, I'm out here doing such and such. If anyone's got any questions about what we're up to, post them in the comments, whatever it might be. But just get really comfortable pressing play, do a little live Instagram, do a video, do whatever it might be, but get comfortable using these cameras because they're your best friend. Always shoot in natural light. If you're taking a photo of your products, for example, if you're like a value adder or if you have a meat business like we do, natural light is your best friend. Please don't use your flash. Don't take photos at night time if you want people to really engage with them, especially if it's of a food product, because they just don't look as, I guess, enticing as the natural light ones. And edit your photos. So I use an editing app called Visco, which is Visual Supply Company, but there are heaps out there. There's Afterlight or Snapseed, and I've got links for those in the follow-up notes. But definitely a quick brighten and a sharpen makes all the difference to your photos on social media or wherever it is that you're posting. I use a filter. So with Visco, I use a filter called C1, and every single photo I post on my blog anywhere has had that filter put through it. And it just lets you put your kind of stamp on things, and it's all part of your branding. But spend some time figuring out the best way to edit your photos. Play around with some different filters. I promise you it makes a big difference. And you know, you wouldn't just slap a blurry grey crappy photo up on the label of your product, would you? You know, you'd spend time really making it good. And I think what we all have to get in our heads is that every photo we post anywhere online that's got our tag on it, it's part of our branding. So we really have to try to make them as good as they can be. And it's really not hard. Like, these cameras, as I said, take fantastic photos. We've just got to learn to use them to the best of our time and ability. Now, when it comes to the captions that we're going to put with our images, again, I'm thinking mostly here of Facebook and Instagram, but this applies across the board. Write your captions as if you're writing directly to your Sally or Steve or your best friend or whatever that might be. A lot of people, I think, get a bit blocked with, I don't know what to say, or I don't know how to say it. Just really think as if you're talking to that one person, not just sending out words into the void. I often find myself, the easiest way to write my captions, I dictate them often. So I turn the notes app on in my phone, and I just press the little microphone down the bottom, and I just say what I want to say. And often that'll happen if I'm out and about on the farm doing a job, I have an idea for a caption, or going for a walk. Dictate your captions. It'll be full of mistakes and it won't be exactly what you want to say, but at least you've got something on paper, and then you can go back in, edit them, change them, and post them. So that's one thing I think for a lot of people who get a bit of writer's block when they're talking into the void that social media sometimes feels like. Write to that one person. That really does help, and dictate them. That doesn't work for everybody, but it certainly works for me, and it might for someone else. And instead of just telling us what you are selling, tell us how that product or service will solve a problem. So say you produce free range eggs. Don't just say, we've just delivered a bunch of beautiful free range eggs to our local IGA, go and buy them. Maybe you could tell us your 5 favorite ways to cook those eggs on a Saturday morning, or how to store those eggs, or your grand's favorite sponge cake recipe, whatever it might be. Don't just tell us, buy my product. Tell us how that product is going to work for us in our life and what to do with it. Again, that takes a little bit more time, but I promise you it's worth it, because people really respond to that kind of value. Use the word because. Like, don't just say to people, sign up to our email newsletter. Here's the link. Say, sign up to our email newsletter because every Wednesday we're going to send you a bunch of tips and tricks to how to use our fencing system, or whatever it might be that you're involved in. Always give people a reason to do something. I think building a brand is not just showing up and posting photo after photo after photo of kind of pre-batched content. It's about giving value, always giving value with your customer front of mind, and people really respond to that, I promise. The next thing I would say is ask questions. So invite feedback and comments. You know, we generally do what we're told, I think, in life. So if you're sharing, just trying to think of another example of someone who might be on here. Maybe you have a cellar door, maybe you're winemakers, and you might say, our cellar doors open this weekend, come and find us. You could say, come and find us, or, you know, post below. If you can't get there, ask us any questions about food and wine matching or whatever it might be that might be relevant. So always be inviting that feedback. Don't just leave a post hanging there with no hook. You've got to give people a reason to engage. And I'm sure everybody knows that engagement is the name of the game with social media. You know, it's not just having a follow account of X thousands or hundreds or whatever it might be. It's your engagement rate that is really important. So comments, likes. When I think, I know a post on my Instagram is most successful when there's a whole conversation happening in the thread below. So you want people to be chatting, and the way that will start is asking questions. Before you press publish on your captions or a newsletter or whatever it might be, read it out loud to yourself. It's the only way, I think, to really pick up on any bad grammar, spelling mistakes, repetition. I think especially with newsletters, because once you've pressed publish, they're gone. You can't get them back. Definitely with Instagram and Facebook, all the others, you can go in and edit, but it's not a great look to be posting stuff that's full of spelling mistakes. It really lets your brand down. So read out loud to yourself. There's also, I'm sure a lot of you guys know about Grammarly, which is free. It's an app, or I use it on my desktop. You just paste in your caption or whatever it is that you're saying, and it will come up with any tips. It will obviously highlight any spelling mistakes, but if there should be a colon or a semicolon, it will come up with all of that sort of stuff. Because again, branding is about everything. It's about how people feel when they interact with you. It's about the kind of words that you use, the colors, the kind of photos. And if your posts are full of spelling mistakes, that really does kind of let your brand down and say to people that maybe that person's not as sort of serious about what they're doing as they let on. So always double check your spelling. And be giving value all the time. That's why I always say, like, before you press publish on anything that you share online, think to yourself, is this useful or inspiring to my Sally or Steve? And then the next thing, TLDR, which is what my 13-year-old daughter said to me the other day when I was writing something, too long, didn't read, which is kind of brutal. But people are busy these days, and they probably don't have heaps and heaps of time to read huge, long captions or blog posts or whatever it is. Break up your text into chunks. And if you've got a lot to say, consider breaking it up into a series, or maybe actually just say it, do a live video, do an Instagram TV, anything like that. But huge, big chunks of text these days, I think people will just do the old TLDR and scroll on, unless you've got an incredibly loyal community and they're like 100% here for what you've got to say. But I think in general, it's good just to keep it brief. This is a really good, just checking my time, a really good thing to do at any point of your online branding journey. Do a really good audit of your online presence. So your website, is it really up to date? Is your about page up to date? Are all the links going to the right place? Are you happy with your profile photo? I said before, if your profile photo is a logo, I really would consider making it a photo of yourself or your team. One good thing you could do, if there's a bunch of you, is get a photographer or whoever in your team is the best at taking iPhotos. Get everybody in their shirts or whatever your uniform might be, and take a photo of everybody with the same background, and then share it, change it once a month. And maybe every time you change that photo with a new team member, you might introduce that person and say 5 things you might not know about Tim. And Tim might share a little bit about, you know, what makes him tick, and, you know, why he works where he works and what he loves about it. So that's a really good opportunity to share more of your backstory, the kind of people that work there, you know, that whole people like us do things like that, like this. It's really powerful stuff. You might think, but hey, what does it have to do with anything? What podcast I'm listening to at the moment? It really does. People want to get to know you. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So build that trust factor by sharing more of yourself. Are your links all going to the right place? I talked about that hub and spoke system before. So your one link, you only get one clickable link with Instagram. Facebook is obviously different, and so is Twitter. But with Instagram, you've only got that one link. So make sure it's going to the right place. Think about using something like Linktree or Milkshake, and I've got links to those in the follow-up notes as well. But basically, Linktree is one link that you click on, and it gives you a whole lot of different options to send people where you want them to go. But it's amazing how many people, when they do this audit, they go to their website and they realize, oh my gosh, we haven't updated our About Us page for 6 years. It's really out of date, or whatever it might be. Again, it just really lets your brand down if those sorts of things are outdated or irrelevant or incorrect. So just maybe set half a day aside to do a massive audit of your website, all your social media feeds. Make sure that you've got the same profile photos across all of them, so there's that consistency. Make sure that your About Me page or About Us page really clearly conveys who you are, what you do, why you do it, and why we should care. So that who, what, why statement is really important. That's kind of your elevator pitch. Also, when you do this audit, study your numbers. Facebook has fantastic analytics now, so do Instagram, all of them. Or there are a lot of paid platforms that will do that for you, like Hootsuite or Later. But look at the posts that you are sharing that are doing the best, that are getting the most engagement. Often they'll have a lot in common. What are the common themes running through all of those posts? Do more of that. What are the posts that are really falling a bit flat, that are getting zero engagement? Do less of that. So I think it's really good. I'm not a fan of being completely driven by numbers. I think that, especially with what we're doing with farming, with food production, it's about sharing your why. It's about just connecting with people and bringing that divide down between our consumers and what we're doing actually on the farm. But I think it's really helpful to know when things are falling flat and when things are really taking off, and being led by that. So here, there's just a couple of examples of people who I think, this is Instagram, whose profile setup is really good. So Gravelia Law, these guys are amazing. They're Gundawindi. So see, she's breaking up her About Me, her profile blurb. She's using emojis, which I think are fantastic. I instantly know who these people are, who this woman is. She's serious about what she does, but she's sharing a bit of, she loves a coffee, she loves a gourmand. I love gourmand too. People like us do things like this. Okay, maybe we should work together. So it's really clear instantly to me that this is the kind of person that I want to work with. So let your personality come through with all of this stuff. Don't be just cut and dry business, because your brand online is not just what you do, it's who you are. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard that Simon Sinek, he's like the creator of the why theory. He did, I think, the second most watched TED Talk of all time. And he said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I think that is really useful to keep in mind, especially in agriculture, because our why is such a great story. People really, really want to hear it. And I think people have never been more interested in the stories behind their food and fibre than they are right now, especially with COVID and especially with border closures and all the rest of it. We're really looking more and more to our sort of local Australian producers, and let's capitalise on that and tell those stories. So I think, yeah, just really do that audit and think about how you can get your profile blurb, whatever platform you're on, to really work for you and tell the story that you want to tell. I love this. If the label fell off, would people still know it was you? A winemaker said this to me once, and he said if someone was trying their wine without their label on, he'd love people to know instantly that it's his. And I feel the same way with my Local Lovely Instagram page, for example. So if you couldn't see, if my profile photo and name was blocked, one of my posts came up, my real hope is that you might think, oh, that's one of Sophie's posts because of the colors, or because of the content, because of the way she's writing. It's that overall branding umbrella of the stamp that makes you you. So the only way to get this is to be consistent in the kind of posts that you make, the subject matter that you deal with, consistent in the way that you do that, and in the time and style of your posting. So really, I know I say it all the time, I'm like a broken record, but consistency is the key. The best way to be consistent is to have a content plan. And in the follow-up notes, I'm going to send you guys, I've got some ideas of how you can kind of start mapping out your content. But think of yourself as the editor of a lifestyle publication, and your product or service is at the center of that publication. So have regular features. So for example, I don't know, you might be you might have beautiful, you might do merino wool jumpers that is single source and sourced from your farm. I know a few people are doing that and they're absolutely beautiful. Maybe you might post once a month your wool inspo, or your 5 most beautiful woolen designers who use wool, or whatever it might be. But choose things that really celebrate your industry, but aren't just always ramming home to people, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. People are there to learn from you. They want to be inspired. They want to get ideas. Or maybe you're creating these beautiful jumpers and you might do a flat lay over the top photo with a jumper and 5 different ways to accessorize that particular jumper. I know that these examples are not applicable to everybody, but I hope that you're getting the idea that whatever product or service you are offering, I know that there would be heaps of different ways to share your story, but always bring the attention back to that conversion goal. So even if it's like every Monday morning, you might share, maybe you're sitting on a tractor and it's harvest, you might share some podcasts, ag-related podcasts that you've been listening to this week on the tractor. People would love that. We are always looking for new podcasts to listen to. So, or playlist of music that gets you going in the morning, or whatever it might be. Really, and have fun with it. Like, this stuff is not hard and it's not miserable. Have fun with it. And then ask people, like, as I said before, ask the question, what podcasts are you listening to? I've run through my list. I'd love some more. Can you share with me? So think of 1 or 2 regular features. I'd love after this if you guys all went away and thought of 1 regular feature that is going to give value to your Sally or Steve, and do that every week. Whether choose the same time, same day, do it. I do a newsletter every Monday morning called 5 Things to Be Cheerful About. 6:30 every single Monday morning I send that out. And, you know, I've created a reading habit with people. They know now it's going to come. And it's been a fantastic tool for me in my business. So I think, yes, it takes a bit of time and it takes a bit of work, but it's absolutely paid off. So yeah, make yourself the editor of your own lifestyle publication. Consistency in the kind of photos that you post. These are just a couple of examples. They're not particularly ag related, I'm sorry, but I hope you get the general idea. I talked before about your photos, choosing a filter, maybe using the same filter every single time. Really, you want that stamp of your brand, so people come to know what to expect. And when one of your photos pops up in their feed, they'll be like, oh, that's such and such. Yeah, I love their photos. I'm going to stay here for a minute and read what they have to say. So be consistent across the board. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Consistency breeds trust, and people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So really, don't underestimate the power of showing up consistently with valuable content. I promise you that's the very best way to build your brand online. Just looking at time. Okay. The 80-20 rule is a goodie. People are not on social media to be sold to all the time. They're there to be inspired, educated, entertained, and informed. So I often say to people, try to keep your posts 80% value and 20% sales. So when by value, I mean, you know, sharing the podcast, sharing ways to use your products, recipes, whatever is applicable to your product or service, and be generous with your knowledge. You know, I think it sounds like a cliche, but honestly, the more you put out there, the more you get back. So you might be, Tim, give me an example. What's someone who, you might be in this group who could share a particular, you've got the list of people, I'm not too sure. I don't know, someone who maybe is, or even you.
Well, I think, you know, I'm a sheep producer. So if I was selling, you know, wool direct, you know, to stick on that example you used before, I'd be, you know, if people are buying my story, I suppose my value piece would be, you know, letting them know that the sheep are in the yards today being cared for in a high welfare environment. And then I suppose my sales piece would be, hey, I've got this jumper for sale. It's $200, limited time only. Yeah.
Well, and I think people are much more likely to spend that $200 on your jumper because they feel like they know you now. You know, they've seen you in the yards, they've seen the care, the effort that you go to make sure your animals are happy and well looked after. And then when it comes to buying that thing, they're not just buying a jumper, they're buying a piece of Tim Flynn, you know, like they're buying the story. They're buying, you know, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So I think, you know, even if you share some care tips, like the best way to care for your jumper so it doesn't pill, or whatever it might be, and those posts might not necessarily lead to a sale today or tomorrow, but when that person wants to buy a product or service that's in your orbit, you'll be front of mind for them. So if you're consistently showing up, sharing really good content that makes them laugh or makes them think or teaches them something that they would like to know or need to know, when it comes the time for that person to, like the example I showed you before of our lawyer friend, she writes wills, right? And so I've got mine sorted, but a lot of you guys, young farmers, you might not have that sorted right now because you're not thinking about it yet. But because she's showing up consistently, sharing really, like I promise you, her stuff's awesome, really useful information, little tax time tips or legal advice, whatever it might be, in handy kind of bite-sized snippets. When the time comes for you to get your will, you're going to think of her because you feel like you know her, you like her, and you trust her. So it's a long game. I get it. It's not just like an instant conversion, but it really does work. And it's, I think the other thing to keep in mind is that you never ever know what's going to come out of the stuff that you share online. So, you know, if you're consistently showing up, owning your space, being an expert in the wool industry or beef or free range chickens, or for us it's venison, whatever it might be, you never know who's looking. Like there might be a journalist from ABC Country Hour or Country Style Magazine or Grazie Her or wherever it might be, who are looking for great stories or a particular expert on a particular subject. You'll be front of mind. So they'll be like, oh, hey, that person, yeah, she or he's awesome. They're always on social media. I'm going to go and contact them. They'll send you a direct message and they'll be like, hey, you know, can you comment on this? And then you might find yourself with a column in a magazine or who knows, on a podcast. You just never ever know. And all of that stuff is really good for your brand, personal brand. I know it sounds a bit wanky, but you know what I'm saying? So you never know who's looking. You might think, oh my God, I'm putting all this great content out into the void. But people are going to be reading it and they will find you. And the other good thing is that just doing that actually is really good for your own writing practice. It's great to kind of get all this stuff down on paper, and maybe you'll find that you're going to share all this stuff on a blog or a website, or you might start a newsletter. And if you've been showing up on social media already doing that stuff, you can just copy and paste and repurpose that content. It's writing and creating good content is never a waste of time. So put the time in, and I really think that you will see the results. It might just take a little bit of time for it to manifest. So yeah, so keep your posts 80% value and 20% sales. But when you go in for the sale post, Instagram and Facebook particularly have made it super easy. You can link, you can do shop straight online in their platforms, or I just have like a big cartel. It's free. It's an online shop that I send people straight to and they make their purchase. But when you do your sales posts, make sure it's crystal clear. I'm here, I'm selling. I've told you about my fabulous eggs and my jumpers and my wills or whatever it might be. Now's the time to buy. This is the price. This is where you find it. Here's the link. The link is going to take you directly to the shopping basket. Off you go and buy my thing. I think a lot of people, when you got them to that point in that sales funnel, you know, around the top is all the value stuff, and then you're coming down the sales post. So is the funnel where you get people through. Make it really clear, and don't forget that word because. You know, don't just say buy my jumper. Buy my jumper because you're going to feel awesome. You're supporting an Australian farmer, whatever it might be. Just give them a reason. I think that we all forget to do that sometimes. And sometimes then people are like, oh, yeah, I'll buy it one day. But if you kind of get emotional and give them a reason, people are a bit more likely, I think, to actually make the sale. Almost to my number 12, but this one is a really important one. So did you know 70% of digital content now is consumed on a phone or a tablet? So when you think of people reading on their phones, they're doing so while they're maybe waiting for their coffee, while they're waiting for city friends, waiting for the bus to arrive, or they're waiting for the car to fill up, or whatever it might be. They're micro moments. People don't have hours and hours and hours to read an essay. So think of that. Remember that you're Sally or Steve. Think about where they are in their day when you're posting this stuff, and think about those micro moments, how you're going to make it as easy as possible for people to digest that content. So, you know, even if it's like, if you're doing video, put captions on your video. Instagram TV, for example, have just added a really great function. So you can put live captions on. You know, that terrible statistic about how many people are watching video on the toilet. So they have the sound down. You always want to have captions on there so people can read it with the sound off. Think about where your Sally or Steve is in their day when you're posting this stuff, and keep it brief, lots of line breaks, emojis, make it visually attractive to them, and be respectful of their time, and they will really appreciate that. I think this one is a really, really important one, and we all forget it. Spend as much or more time on other people's feeds as your own, especially when you're starting out. I think a lot of people, we spend all this time, we create these great content plans, and we have our beautiful shiny websites, and we're doing all this stuff, and we just post and walk away. If you really want people to engage with you and feel like they know, like, and trust you and create community, you need to be getting out there and mingling. As I said before, the clue is in the name. It's called social media. So, you know, you wouldn't go to a networking event. I mean, not that we can with COVID these days anyway, but imagine you could go to a networking event with 100 people in the room and you just stood there all night talking about yourself. It just wouldn't happen, and people would think you're a bit of a loser. So instead, you're asking questions like, hey, oh, this is what I do. What do you do? Oh, cool. We should collaborate, blah, 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 blah. Social media is the same. It's just one big networking event. So what I often recommend to people, it sounds a bit weird and stalkery, but make a list, for example, of 10 people or 20 people a month that you really want to connect with. They could be media, they could be ideal customers, they could be peers or colleagues that you want to get on, you'd like to be on their radar. And just start following them and start actually thoughtfully engaging with them. So they might be posting a link on Twitter. You might read that link and say, oh, I thought that was really interesting. What did you think about when he said X? Or, you know, if you're on Facebook and someone shares something that you really like, say, hey, oh, that's so cool. I like that. You should check out my feed. I did something a bit like this the other day. I'd love you to see it, etc. So get out there and mingle, because those people will eventually go, oh, hey, that person's interesting. I'll go and check out their feed, and they will follow you, and that's how it goes. So get out there and mingle, and invite collaborations, invite cross-linking. You know, you might have a product that might be really complementary to somebody else's product. So you say, hey, let's do a post together. You could do an Instagram takeover of my feed, and I could do one of yours, or whatever it might be. It's about being social. And I think especially for us farmers, you know, we're on our own a lot. And my husband's probably 8 hours a day at the moment. He's sort of out on his own. It's really nice to have that little moment where you're having a little chat with someone, or you might be discussing a system of fencing or whatever it might be. It's not just growing your business. It's actually, you know, you meet some really cool people as well doing that. So get out there and mingle and spend as much time, if not more, on other people's feeds as your own. So this is just my quick kind of roundup of what we've kind of covered today. It's social. It should be fun as well. Like, have fun with it, because I think if you really hate being on a particular platform, it can be quite obvious to us on the other end. So, you know, for me, I like Instagram. It's where my Sally is. I don't really spend a huge amount of time on Facebook or Twitter because I don't really like being there, but I love being on Instagram. And I think it's, you know, so I'm chatting and I'm out there and I'm having a nice time. And I think that really helps with that kind of overall branding. So find the platform where your people are going to be and that you like to be on as well. Invest time to learn the basics, like learn how to take good photos. There's heaps of YouTube tutorials on iPhoneography, but just practice. Remember, it's not about the numbers, it's about engagement. Don't rush, check for spelling and grammar, reach out, comment back, get involved, and come and find me if you need any other clarifications or any other help. But here I've got a few kind of examples of farmers that I think are doing a really great job on Instagram. And you can see with all of them, their profile bios are really instantly clear who they are, what they're about, where we can find them with good, clear links. And remember that those first, especially on Instagram, those first 9 photos are like an instant snapshot of who you are and what you're all about. So when you do that audit that maybe you will do after today, go through and just have a think into all those first 9 photos. Are they a really good instant snapshot of your brand and the kind of brand that you're trying to be? So if there's a photo on there that you took in a hurry that might be a bit blurry or really is kind of letting you down a bit, just delete it. I think it's fine to do that. And think about those first 9 images, especially on Instagram, but it's the same with Facebook. You know, go through, and if there's photos or stories that you think might not be doing your brand justice, I would give them the old heap ho. And you know, just remembering that every post that you share, that is part of your brand story. So no pressure, but make sure that they're doing you justice. You know, you wouldn't just slap a label on your product that you've worked really, really hard to create that had a spelling mistake in it or that was frayed or whatever it might be. Really have high standards, I think, for yourself, and people will really respond to that, I think. Gulf Coast Agricultural Company are amazing. Their photos are beautiful, and they do really well with their engagement. Pecora Dairy, this is my friend Cressida. They're sheep farmers from Southern Highlands, and they do cheese. Her Instagram feed is amazingly, it's beautiful. It gives me a lot of value, and it makes me want to buy her cheese. So I'll send some links in my follow-up notes of some people that I really enjoy following, some farmers who I think are doing a great job. But I'd also love to know who everybody enjoys following as well, because I'm always looking for new examples. So I don't know, Tim, where's the best place for people to give feedback? On the Facebook page maybe?
Yeah, definitely. So this video will sit live on our Facebook page as a post. So it's a Young Farmer Business Program Facebook page, and I think, you know, if we can get the comment section going off and everyone letting us know what they like to follow, that's probably the best.
I think it's so handy and it's so useful to see what everyone's doing and what's really working for everybody as well, because, you know, it's not copying, but I think that if there's a farmer or producer working in your space that's nailing it, or, you know, doing really well with particular style of post, then you'd be crazy not to think, well, hang on, how can I make that work for me as well? We haven't talked about hashtags yet, because mostly I think they're quite specific to Instagram. Hashtags on Facebook aren't as powerful, I don't think. Definitely on Twitter they are. But again, it's about going out there and really doing your research. Like, what hashtags are really powerful. They're like a little mini Google. Find what's working in your area. And just what I do is I keep a whole catalog of them on my notes app. And so I've got like, I mean, because mine is food and recipes that are quite specific, but I'll have, you know, baking or sourdough baking or coffee through a window, all sorts of weird and wonderful hashtag categories. But it makes it easy for me, because then when I post a photo like that, I can just go in and copy and paste and off it goes. So again, I think it's just about putting the time in and realizing that it's an investment of time, but it's absolutely worthwhile doing, because it's, as we all know, an incredibly powerful branding marketing tool. So yeah, but I've got a heap of hashtag information and some examples as well in the notes that I can send through. Tim, are there any questions that people might have asked? Or
yeah, there sure are. Sophie, thanks so much for sharing that all with us, and we even ran to time, which is fantastic. So thank you very much. 5
minutes to go.
5 minutes to go. We got through so much. I certainly learned an awful lot over the last 50 minutes.
Well, I hope I wasn't. I get a bit overexcited, like I've got so much I want to say, so I hope I didn't go too fast. But again, it's all in the notes and I've expanded on everything in there, so hopefully that will be helpful.
I think it's fantastic. We'll get to questions in just a minute. There is a few of them, but if I could get everyone to keep the questions piling in the comment section on Facebook or through the chat function on webinar. I've got a list of all the questions coming in, Sophie, but if you could check them as well, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find them now.
If everyone could, while you got those questions coming in, head to slido.com and enter the hashtag build your brand, and there should be a quick survey open there. Give you a chance to let us know how you found today. Hopefully you learned as much as I did. As I was saying before, evaluation is incredibly important to us because we are a government employee, and we're a government funded program, and government funding is taxpayer dollars. So we want to do the best thing we can by our audience, young farmers and our broader audience today, knowing that there was quite a lot over the 35. So look forward to hearing any thoughts or feedback you've got there. There's only a few quick questions, won't take you very long at all. So hopefully
I've got a question here.
Hopefully it's not a TLDR, too long, didn't read. So hopefully people can help us out there. But Sophie, you might...
the old TLDR.
Yeah, if you've got a question you're ready to answer, that would be great.
Okay, I've got one here from the Facebook page from Heather Smiley. Hi, Heather. And Heather was wondering if there's such a thing as saturation in the media market, or will there always be space for everyone to fill their own niche? Do you think people should chase a niche or just create whatever comes to them naturally? I think what you have to do is just really be thinking about, as I said before, like, what is it that you're there? Like, what's your conversion goal? Like, what's your hub? And how can you establish yourself as a kind of expert in that field that really builds that trust factor and that no-like trust factor? So I don't think there can be a saturation when we're talking about this kind of thing, because everybody does things differently, right? Like, I'm a food writer. There's 50 million recipes out there for lasagna, but nobody is going to make lasagna to make the way I do. Do you know what I mean? So we're all going to bring our particular twist, our particular expertise and knowledge and why to the platform. So as long as you're showing up being really yourself and really always thinking I'm going to give value with generosity, I don't think you can saturate the market, because nobody else is going to do it the way that you're going to do it, Heather. So as long as you're really being yourself, giving value and thinking about Sally or Steve, I don't think you can saturate the market, because it's your own particular niche. And I think in terms of niching, it depends on your product or service, obviously, but I think that it is important to have your lane and to know, it's the old, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. So be really clear that, you're not going to please everybody, and you can't attract how many billions of people there are on social media, but being really in your lane, servicing your person, and sticking to what you know, I think then, you can't be saturating the market. I hope that answered your question. I'm just looking through if there are any other questions. Have you got any, Tim?
I've got a few. So Sophie, you talked a bit about content planning for the future. How long should people do? Is it a week, a fortnight, a month, 3 months? What's the sort of accepted rule?
I generally think a fortnight at a time is quite good, because obviously things change, especially at the moment with COVID, and you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. And I also think if you're kind of going 3 months in ahead, it can get a bit stale. It's a bit like you're just going through the motions. Whereas if you're thinking, right, every 2 weeks, I'm going to give myself 3 hours or whatever it might be to sit down and write 6 posts. Because I think also less is more. You don't have to post every single day. I think even 3 to 4 times a week is great, as long as they're super valuable posts. And what makes that really easy is if you've got those regular features we talked about. So say you might think, okay, Monday, I'm going to share a harvest update from the tractor, or, an Instagram TV live where I'm just doing this is my workspace, or this is what's happening. That could be your Monday. Wednesday, you could post, a shout out to your favorite customers and highlight them, or whatever it might be. In the notes, I've got heaps of different examples for this stuff like this. But I think if you do fortnightly, it also doesn't become too daunting a task. Sometimes it can just feel like, oh my God, that's too hard, too much, don't have time. Whereas if you think, okay, 2 hours, that's all it could take to batch produce this stuff and take some nice photos and get it all ready. I don't even use a fancy scheduling tool. I just use my calendar on my, which obviously syncs from my laptop to my phone. And I just paste the content, I'll put the caption in there and I'll attach the photo and I'll set myself an alarm. So it's 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night, for example, which generally, the general rule of thumb is that's like the golden time to post, because it's when most of us are sitting on the couch. It'll send me alert, and if I do, I just copy and paste and then it's done. So I think keep it simple. You don't have to get too complicated with this stuff, but I think fortnightly, and then just sort of take it every 2 weeks, I think. But you know, it's different for everybody in every business, but I think more than a month at a time can get a bit stale, personally.
Yeah, great. The next question, oh, also, sorry on that, Sophie, seen people do it in an Excel spreadsheet where they have it all laid out on one page and in different rows. Not everyone's a great fan of Excel. I know that. I am personally, but
but my husband is. He loves the spreadsheet. But you know, it's whatever works for you. Like I've got friends who just literally get a piece of A4 paper and put it into a grid of 9 for their Instagram page and just do a mud map and stick that up on their pin board in their office, and that's their content planning. You know, so whatever works for you. It's got to be easy, and it's got to be simple, because otherwise you just won't do it, I think. So yeah, but spreadsheets, scheduling apps, whatever it is that suits your personality, I think.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. There's a few questions coming in about the slides. So Sophie, we're going to make the slideshow available to everyone that's registered, and flick the message on Facebook if you're watching this on Facebook, and send us your email, and we'll make sure you get the slide deck. And Sophie's also been generous enough to put together some more detailed notes to accompany this, and we'll flick something around as well. That clears off quite a few there, but a question is probably a simple one, is how we talked about engaging with other people in the space. It is social media. Should you follow everyone that follows you, or is there a rule there?
I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. I think when you're starting out, if you've got 50 followers, then great, do that. But what you might find is that their stuff you might not engage with as much, because they might have just come across you through someone else and thought, hey, I'll follow that person, and you might drop off their feed, or they might drop off yours. I think just follow like-minded people whose content you get really excited about, and it's highly likely that they will come and follow you as well. But as your numbers grow, which they will if you do all these things, you might get to 1,000 or 2,000 followers, and it's hard to manage that, to follow that many people and meaningfully engage with them. So I don't think it's necessary personally. But again, everyone's got different ideas about these. But I think just follow the people that you find inspiring and bringing value, and they'll probably do the same for you. Great. We've got just more questions for you.
Well, I've got one more coming through Zoom, which is how much time? It's probably a two-pronged question. How much time do you spend on your socials a week? And then the second question is, how much should other businesses spend on their social media?
It's kind of like how long is a piece of string. I think I spend quite a lot. I would say, and I'm not just talking about the social media, I guess, I include my email newsletter in this as well, because I guess it's more that digital marketing piece. But probably 4 to 6 hours a week I would do on mine. But having said that, it's also my job. I help a lot of other people with their social media feeds, and it's, I guess, my job to sort of stay on top of a whole lot of different things. But in terms of actually creating the content, because I've been doing Instagram for like 10 years now, I'm really in a bit of a flow with it. Like, I know what my Sally wants from me, and I know the best times to give it to her kind of instinctively now, I guess, without sounding like a loser. But it's taken me a long time to get to that point. So, you might be out in the farm and you'll take a really cute photo of, well, for me, I took a photo of the kids the other day. We were moving some cows and we had to walk through the willows. And so it was really beautiful summer's evening or spring evening. So I just took that photo and I posted it, and that got heaps of engagement. But sometimes there might be a photo that I agonize over and I might take ages to sort of line up, and it's okay, but it doesn't fly like some. So I think sometimes there's just like the magic secret sauce to some photos and some content, but you've got to put the time into, I guess, knowing who you're talking to and what you're there to say, and learning those skills and how to take those good photos. So I think, you know, this is powerful stuff. Like anytime you put into learning social media, digital marketing skills and executing them will be time well spent for sure. But I also know that everyone's got 50 million other things that they need to do. So maybe if you put aside like, and again, it depends on your goals and it depends what you need to get out of your social media endeavors. But I'd say if you really are there to grow your numbers and grow your engagement and grow your audience to eventually sell products or services, I would say 1 to 2 hours a week minimum. And I don't think that's too much. And the other thing just quickly is if you're enjoying it, like try to have fun with it, as I said before, because for me being on Instagram is no punishment. I quite enjoy it. And I'm now chatting with people who I really enjoy interacting with. So it's not, it's not a miserable thing to have to do, I don't think. So if you can find a way to enjoy it and do it in a way that's fun for you, then it's kind of a win-win.
That's great. That's great. We've got a question here from Yasmin, and Yasmin wants to have a question about for brands that have a small team, 3 people, which is probably like most farms. Have you seen anyone do it well where each person shares their own content and voice, or is it better to just have one overarching brand voice?
Yes, I've seen people do that well. And I think if you can have like a really clear, like sort of guidelines of like, okay, guys, if you've got a team of 3, this is our tone of voice that we're using. This is our Sally. Like have a photo of your Sally or your Steve up on the board in the office with like, this is who we're talking to and this is the way we talk to her, so that everybody has that kind of consistency in their approach. But I think if you're going to say if there's 3 of you and you take it in turns, right? You might do a week each on your socials. Just start every post with, hey, it's Emily here, just checking in. It's my week. And this is what I'm sharing. So make it really clear from the get-go who's actually talking. Because again, it's social media is called social for a reason. You want to know you're actually talking to a person. And what you can also do is, I remember I gave that example at the very beginning about getting everyone's photos taken on the same day, same light, same work shirt, whatever. You could even, whoever's taking over the feed that week, change the profile photo so it's that person. So it's really clear who's talking, but there's still that consistency in look and feel with your branding. I think I've seen people do that and it's really cute. And then, you know, whoever's taking over that week, get them introduced and you could say 3 things I'm loving this week. And they might be podcasts or shows or whatever, but they might all be related to your product or service. So again, establishing yourselves as like people to know, like, and trust, experts in your field, but you've all got a different take on it. So I hope that makes sense. I think certainly it's easier just to give it to one person, but if you can make that work, that can be quite fun and engaging as well. And people I think would respond to it well, as long as you can keep the consistency and tone of voice and the kind of photos that you're posting.
That's great, Jazz. Yasmin has said thank you very much. So looks like you've really covered off on her question there. So if you talked about your Sally, Sally, your ideal customer avatar. Should people that have a varied customer type, should they have like different models, or how should they go about developing their?
People ask this a lot, and I get it that it's like can be impossible to boil all your different customers down into one person. But what I would say to that is that probably, even though you've got varied customers with varied ages and interests and whatever, they probably share a lot as well, and they probably all have a similar kind of problem that you can solve for them with your particular product or service. So I think in terms of the way, you know, I said before, write as you would talk to Sally, like dictate your captions, all that kind of stuff. What problems are you solving? If you just have one person in mind, it makes it a lot easier to keep that tone of voice going. And it's not like you're excluding all your other customers. It just gives you, I think you can relax into it a lot more and be a real person talking to another real person when you've got one person in mind. It's not to say that you're excluding your other customers, and maybe you could have a few, like you could have 3 or 4 different ideal customer avatars. I just find personally, and I've heard this from other people, that when you've got that one person you're talking to, it can really help. The way that really helps me is when I'm doing a video. I did some IGTVs the other day about sourdough bread making. And when I think of, not that I have stratospheric numbers by any means, but when I think of, you know, a few thousand people who are following me, I can freeze up a bit and go, oh my God, what do all these people want from me? This is a bit scary. But if I have my phone on its tripod sitting there and I'm telling Sally how to make sourdough bread the way I make it, it's so much easier because it's not that horrible, like speaking into the void. You're actually talking to a person. And I think it shows, like when you're talking in a really engaging way to an actual human being, everybody can connect with that. So I hope that makes sense, but I'm not saying that you'll only have one kind of customer. It just is easier to talk to your people when you've got like a particular person in mind.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I think we've just got one more, if you've still got time, Sophie.
Yeah, I've got heaps of time. Yep.
Is how important do you think it is to engage the support services like graphic designers or content strategists or the experts in the area?
Yeah, hi Carmen. Thank you for that question. I think it is important for get a good graphic designer who kind of does your obviously your website, any kind of like tile. So say you might want to post on your Instagram stories or your feed or your Facebook or wherever, like quotes or updates or whatever it might be. They should always be beautifully designed. I know there's Canva is great for stuff like this, but I think that if you just employ the services of a good designer to set you up with a suite of materials, so logos, tiles, all that kind of stuff, fonts, brand colors, that can really help with your consistency. I think also if you're not super confident with a camera, it really is great to invest in some good photography. I know that I said you've got to learn how to take good photos with these cameras, and you do, but in terms of like actual product photography or team portraits or profile photos of you, spending a few $100s or whatever it might be on getting a photographer to do that for you, I think is a really great investment. And, you know, get someone local so you're all supporting each other. And then that photographer will probably share your photos to their people, and, you know, you've got that ripple effect. So I think it is important to realize we can't be all things to all people, and to rely on the experts. But also, then once you've got all those ducks in a row, do it yourself, because no one can replicate your voice, I don't think.
Thank you. That's great advice. And I think that wraps up all our questions for today, Sophie. So thanks so much for your time. There's been a few thank yous come through. So that's fantastic to see everyone there. Just a quick reminder, it's up on the screen now, that you can head to slido.com, hashtag build your brand, to let us know any feedback you've got, good and bad, and any other topics that you would like to hear from us. This week, the Young Farmer Business Program, we have one webinar every day. There's a different topic every day. So yesterday we had a future-proofing your business. Today we've been talking about building your brand. Tomorrow we're going to talk about employing, retaining and developing staff. On Thursday we are going to talk about financial fundamentals and bookkeeping, and we're also going to, on a Friday, have a chat about how to apply to grants or other funding that might be out there for businesses and community groups. This is all part of New South Wales Government Small Business Week. So farmers are small businesses as well as everyone else. So we're all out there to support each other. And so if any of those topics are of interest to you, don't hesitate to join in. And you can find all that on our Facebook page and scattered through Instagram. So you might see a few changes to our Facebook or Instagram after hearing some great tips from Sophie today, and hopefully it's been of benefit to the wider audience as well.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Thank you very much, Sophie. And without further ado, I'll wrap it up there. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Still live, and